Hey guys, welcome back to the History Channel guy here. I'm finally gonna watch the new Oversimplified video. So the past 2 nights have been such a blur. I'm obviously in college, so I was at two parties the past 2 nights, and right now some of my frat bros are actually partying downstairs while I'm making a video. But if you hear them in the background, I'm very sorry, and I just got back from a darty, so I'm a little drunk right now. But today he's watching the First Punic War, which is very fascinating to me because, frankly, this is a Roman war that I know very little about. And I'm very interested to see what Oversimplified has. But it's been way too long. It's our first Oversimplified video of 2022. But let's get started, y'all.
This video was made possible by NordVPN. Click the link below and get an exclusive deal with a huge discount and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Introducing our new, glorious, breathtaking bucket plushie.
The bucket.
Limited quantity. Available now. Along with
Great
some
episode.
Punic War
Love
character
that.
pins.
Yep.
Buy them, or
I
I'll
honestly
marry
might buy
your
the
mother.
bucket.
It's you.
If you want me to buy the bucket, leave it in the comment section because I'll 100% buy the bucket if we get, let's say if we reach 1,000 subs by December, I will buy the bucket and I will share it with all of y'all in a video. And you can actually see my face in that video for once. But yeah, let's buy the bucket.
Your choice.
Oh, Marcellus, you sure have a lot of dignitas. Kiss me.
Okay. Hey, Dad.
Hi, son. Just reading the newspaper. What can I do for you?
Well, you know how you always say Rome is the greatest civilization in the world? It bloody well is. Well, I was just wondering, what makes us so great? How did we come to be? Wow.
So the way that they came to be is actually a follow-up to the Trojan War. So I think it was Aeneas or something like that. He founded Rome with this huge story, but eventually it's like Romulus and someone else, and they were actually raised by wolves, which is how Rome was created, and theoretically by the text. And I'm sure he's gonna say that right now, but that is how it happened. They like suckled a wolf's teat and they became men. So weird origins of one of our greatest empires of all time.
My son, boy, let me take you on a journey to this side of the room. The story of Rome begins with these beautiful baby boys going to town on some she-wolf mommy milkers. That's
Yep, there we
gross.
go.
You're gross. Sorry, son. You're not gross. I love you. They're called Romulus and Remus, and when they grew up in 753 BC, they founded Rome. But there was just one problem. They couldn't agree on which of them should be the king. But they worked it out peacefully, right? Oh, heavens no. Romulus caved Remus's skull in with a shovel. Here's a picture. Our first king committed fratricide? I know. Look at his face. When's the part where we become the greatest civilization, Dad? Well, you see, at first Rome was full of men. I'm talking like a real sausage party. You know what I mean? Yes, sir. So we invited some neighboring cities over for a big feast. And then we literally kidnapped all of their women. Here's a picture.
Look at that one. She's like,
This is messed up. You're messed up! Ugh. Sorry. I'll be a better father. I promise. So then, finally, after centuries of monarchy, those tyrannical kings started getting a little too big for their britches. So we overthrew the kings.
So yeah, Rome goes through a monarchy period at one point in its history, and it's actually very fascinating how it developed from a monarchy to eventually a republic, where you'd have consuls, which would work for about a year, and they would not allow it to be a consul again. So you had this constant flow of new leaders in Rome that, as a result, leads to a lot of military conquest, just because when you only have 1 year to be the consul under the Roman Republic, you need to make your mark on things. So when it comes to diplomatic things, those take a while to happen. Therefore, you need to find some sort of quick victory. Therefore, war and conquering new territories is always the best way to leave your mark on the Roman Republic when it happens. But Roman monarchy, very fascinating time in its history, but I'll move on. I don't know where this is going so far. I've heard absolutely nothing about the Punic War so far.
And established Rome as a republic. Is that when all the killing stopped? Oh, heavens no. That's when the killing surged, baby. We went wild and conquered the Latin League, the Samnites, the Etruscans. Woo! What a rush. Dad, Rome seems pretty barbaric. You're barbaric! Oh, I forgot to tell you about the time a prophet told Saturn his son would one day overthrow him. So Saturn literally ate his own son seconds after he was born.
So that's because Saturn and it's Kronos in Greek basically thought that there was a curse which would ensure that his sons would, or basically one of his children would overrule him, which eventually became Zeus, and as a result he ate his children. So Cronus ate all of his children. Zeus eventually frees them. Some of them are like Hades, Poseidon, etc. But yeah, that's the story. It's kind of interesting to think about. Still no Punic War though. Still waiting. 2 minutes in.
I don't want to see a picture. Here's a picture. Dad, look at that.
Oh, it's blurred
That's
out.
messed up, man. Are we really this uncivilized? Hey! If we were so uncivilized, would we use communal toilets where we all fart and poo together in one big stinky, steamy, dirty toilet room? Yeah, Dad. We would. Clean your butt with a sponge, Timulus. But all these guys just used it. What's wrong with your son, bro? I don't want to be Roman. This is so weird. You're weird. Sorry, you're not weird. I'm sure you're probably fine. The Roman Republic, a nation that, since its foundation, had been stabbing necks all the way down the Italian peninsula. But this isn't the famous Roman Empire that ruled the known world. Not yet anyway. This is a relatively juvenile Rome, still just a regional power. In 264 BC, the big daddy of the Western Mediterranean was Carthage. Let's rewind a bit.
Yeah, so Carthage is a northern African empire, as you can see here, but Carthage was really the big dogs in the area just because they were able to utilize all the Mediterranean trade. As you can see within the map here, there are many Mediterranean trade routes that essentially Carthage has a monopoly over. So they control southern Spain, they control what is now modern day Morocco, parts of Algeria, Sicily, etc. So they really had a monopoly over the Mediterranean trade, but simultaneously Rome is this new up-and-coming power in the region, which is why the conflict would start in general.
Carthage was founded in 814 BC, when some Phoenicians in Tyre had a mega surplus of goods and decided to export those goods across the Mediterranean. They became the dominant trading power in the region, and to support their growing trade network, the Phoenicians established a number of colonies, one of which was Carthage. Therefore, Carthage began its life as a Phoenician trade colony, and the Carthaginians were actually Phoenicians. Or, if you're a Latin-speaking Roman, they were Punic, hence the name of the video. Over the centuries, Carthage gradually expanded and became the region's base of power. Just like Rome, Carthage was a semi-democratic republic with its own senate and judiciary. But there were also some pretty hefty differences between the two. While Rome was big into farming and stabbing people in the neck, the Carthaginians, on the other hand, just like their Phoenician forefathers, had built their power through trade and navigating the waves. They went here and there, selling ivory tusks, gold, and slaves. And as a result, they were rolling in it. Whenever they weren't busy swimming around in their copious hoards of money, in their spare time, they also possibly enjoyed sacrificing their children to Baal, the god of... Let me just check my notes. Yes. Plant fertility.
Wow, so that is fascinating. I actually did not know that they had such pagan gods in the area, but that is actually very fascinating to me.
Boy, these figs aren't looking too hot. Maybe if I throw my son into a burning pit of fire, they'll grow. Have you tried watering them, Dad? No, we'll try that second. As a result of all their trading, Carthage had emerged as one of the Mediterranean superpowers. But wait, they said. Rome? What the heck is that? Well, I know it's a pretty obscure little country that you've probably never heard of, but
We've all heard of Rome.
this spunky young
Adam,
nation
5
was
seconds.
about to
I'll be
upset
back
the
in a sec.
entire region, practically destined to turn sour. See, Rome had a thing where they liked to aggressively expand their boundaries, often viewing such expansion as a defensive act.
So there you go. You have a defensive act in the eyes of the Romans. Therefore, because we are not, as a way of defending ourselves, we are going to expand just so they can knock out the threats before they happen. And it's very fascinating how this works. Come on, work.
Kinda like when you kill your neighbor, because you knew eventually they would have tried to kill you first.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, Carthage was extremely protective of its wealthy trade network. So if you put a very strategically important island between them, well, 2 + 2 equals war. Tensions rose, and the two sides began viewing each other with increasing disdain. The hard-working Romans looked across the water at the money-hungry Carthaginians and said, "Look at those dishonest crooks. Bet they've never done an honest day's work in their lives." And the Carthaginians looked back and said, "Look at those simple-minded brutes. Bet they've never sacrificed a baby in their lives."
Yeah.
While war between the two superpowers seemed inevitable, the event that finally triggered it was a little unexpected. The whole thing began with a few simple mad lads on a wild night out. These mad lads are called the Mamertines. They were Italian mercenaries employed by the tyrant of Syracuse here. But when he died, his successor said, "Sorry fellas, we don't need any big burly men with sharp sticks anymore. You can all go home." The Mamertines, as it turned out, didn't want to go home. So instead, they went to the nearby town of Messana and said, "Hey man, we are but poor little buff boys without a home. May we come in?" Aw, poor fellas.
So you're going to let mercenaries into your city. This is a huge thing even in the Middle Ages, and this is obviously not the Middle Ages prior to it. However, you see countless stories of people allowing mercenaries into their homes, into their towns, and those mercenaries taking advantage of it. So I'm sure these mercenaries are going to start wreaking havoc, and they're going to unintentionally start a war between Carthage and Rome for some reason. But yeah, morale of the story is don't let mercenaries into your home.
Sure thing. Just so long as you promise not to massacre all of us. We promise. The Mamertines then massacred all of them. Well, not all of them, just the men. And they stole their homes and families. Ha!
So there you go. This is another thing, and you can even see this with the Vikings. You've seen this with many conquerors where they would only kill the men because, and even in Rome's quote-unquote founding, this is what they did, but you only kill the men because the women are going to help you reproduce. They're going to help you create a new society as a whole. And as a result, the men are the ones who are killed, but the women are spared. And it's a disgusting practice. It's how a lot of forced marriages happen, but unfortunately, that is something that happened all the time back then.
This is my house now. This is my best dad ever mug now. And you guys are my new family. Son, wanna go play catch with your old papa? You're not my real dad! Ugh, teenagers. Am I right, dear? You're not my real husband. Ugh, I'm so trapped in this marriage. Then get out! No, Messana was now controlled by the Mamertines, and they began raiding up and down the Syracuse coastline. When the new ruler of Syracuse saw this, he wasn't happy. The Syracusans began fighting back, and in response, the Mamertines said, "Oh crap, they're fighting back? What do we do? Quick, we'll convince the Carthaginians to come and save us." Oh no! We're in trouble, and we need a big, strong empire to come and rub our bellies. Why are you saying it like that? If I was a big, strong empire, I think I'd like to be seduced. See? It's working! The Carthaginians had long dreamed of controlling all of Sicily. They had been fighting Syracuse and their Greek influence on the island for centuries. And now, here was a great opportunity to get one over on them. So Carthage promptly answered the Mamertines' cry for help and sent a force to garrison Messana. As it turned out, however, some within the ranks of the Mamertines weren't too happy with the occupying Carthaginians, and they sent out a second cry for help to Rome. When it reached the Roman Senate, they were a little more hesitant. Going to help the Mamertines ran the risk of triggering an all-out war with Carthage, and they had only just finished conquering the Italian peninsula, so they were kind of tired. Plus, the Mamertines were all the way across the water. They had never made a leap like that before, so you would assume that to avoid any conflict with Carthage, the exhausted Romans would probably sit this one out.
You'd think, but for some reason, aka the consuls, they will not.
But you would assume wrong. Rome just couldn't resist a good chance for war. Why? Well, there's something you gotta understand about Rome. See, as a republic, they were hell-bent on preventing any one man from ever gaining too much power. And so rather than having one leader, Rome had two, called consuls,
Yep.
who shared power. These consuls could also only serve for 1 year at a time before new consuls were elected.
I swear to God, I did not know he was going to mention this.
These measures to limit the powers of the consuls were noble, but had an interesting side effect. The consuls knew they had just 1 year to try and gain as much glory and prestige as possible, something that was very important in Roman society. And the best way of gaining glory and prestige? Military victory, of course. The Roman political system basically ended up encouraging these consuls to go out and be as aggressive as your Italian grandmother when you don't eat all the spaghetti. And so the glory-seeking consuls convinced the people to vote in favor of going to Messana. And in they went.
Another ad.
On the arrival of the Romans, the Carthaginians in the city, amongst the confusion, were forced to leave. Now, in contrast to Roman aggression, the Carthaginian military had a slightly different philosophy. All right, kids, listen up. If you want to grow up to be Carthaginian military leaders, there's a few things you have to understand. If you fail to succeed on the battlefield, that's a crucifixion, showing...
Holy shit. Okay, I didn't know that. If you lose, you get crucified. Imagine the pressure that would have on your generals that if you literally don't win a battle, then you're going to die. I couldn't imagine. They were probably the most weak-minded, non-aggressive generals ever. They probably only teach caution, and that's a result of this insane practice. That is absolutely crazy. I did not know that about the Carthage generals, and excellent research by Oversimplified for finding that out.
Cowardice. That's a crucifixion. Hello, sir. What are you doing here? Aren't you meant to be in Messana? Yeah, but the Romans showed up. So you just left?
Crucified.
Sure did. Oh, you better believe that's a crucifixion.
That's crazy.
The Roman consuls were awarded for victory,
Yep.
and therefore tended to be aggressive go-getters. By contrast,
You're going to be so aggressive when you're rewarded for it, but if you get basically punished with that harsh of a punishment, you are not going to be aggressive at all. You're going to be so lackadaisical. You're going to not even want to. You're basically not going to want to do anything.
the Carthaginian generals were brutally punished for failure, and so they tended to be more cautious and restrained. This dynamic is helpful for understanding some of the crazy things that happened during the Punic Wars. So, the Romans have crossed over to Messana, and now there was some red on the island. Hit that panic button. This turn of events was unacceptable to both Carthage and Syracuse, so the traditional enemies teamed up to kick the Romans off their island. They surrounded the city and said, "Hey, you jerks! This isn't your island! Come out of there at once!"
Okay, we're coming.
See, Phil, you just gotta speak with authority. That's what being an alpha male's all about. Hey, man. Oh, you brought your weapons and armor? No,
course.
I didn't mean... Oh, crap. Out the Roman legions came to engage the Carthaginians in battle, and they sent them packing. With the Battle of Messana, whether intended or not, by going to help the Mamertines, the two sides had just slipped into an all-out war.
And there's a lot of historical circumstances where, or instances where, one little battle starts these huge wars. You actually kind of saw this with his previous video with the Pig War, that the one little conflict in Canada, in Oregon rather, could have started a war between the United States and the United Kingdom, which would have much more drastic consequences than just a little war between the two nations.
With the initial Roman victory, towns across Sicily, including Syracuse, began switching allegiance, because being a winner is more fun. But the Carthaginians weren't about to just give up that easily. In 262 BC, they began building up their forces at Agrigentum. So the Romans, being aggressive go-getters, aggressively go-got them. The Romans immediately laid siege, hoping to starve out the Carthaginian garrison. However, because this was the first time Rome had been fighting outside the Italian peninsula, across the water, they struggled to supply their forces And before long, the Romans were as starving as the Carthaginians they were besieging. They had to forage for food, leaving them open to ambush. And when Carthaginian reinforcements arrived, creating a double siege, things got really bad. Everybody starved each other for months until nobody could take it anymore. And they all finally came out for battle, which Rome won.
Really?
Here's the report from...
That's crazy. So you had a double siege. You literally have soldiers within the city and around the camp, and Rome won. That is crazy. And look at that, 30,000 to 7,000. Just shows the military prowess Rome had at this time and how, I mean, why they succeeded for centuries to come. It's just, that is insane.
From the recent siege at Agrigentum, sir.
We killed 30,000 while only suffering 7,000 losses? That's amazing. We're the best. Yes, sir. Oops, those are the wrong way around.
Oh, I was
What?
about to say.
We lost
That's
30,000?
crazy.
We're the worst. But we won, right? Yes, sir. But we also got our asses kicked. Yes, sir. So are we the best or the worst?
Okay, that was actually hilarious by Oversimplified. I did not expect that at all. I was literally praising Rome prior to that.
Yes, sir.
The Romans won at Agrigentum because they were aggressive go-getters, and they now began eyeing up the possibility of conquering the entire island. But they also suffered very heavy losses, and it was clear they couldn't sustain a campaign if they couldn't supply their troops.
Yep.
Here's the
You
issue.
can't sustainably lose 30,000 troops for a battle against 7,000. You can't lose more than 3 to 1 of your troops the whole time.
Sicily was an island. Islands are surrounded by water. A strong navy would be vital for supplying troops and winning the war. Here was Carthage's navy, and here was Rome's.
Another fucking
I think
ad.
you can
My
see
God,
the
why
problem.
there's so many damn ads.
It would have paled in comparison to the Carthaginian juggernaut.
So the Carthage's navy is obviously very well equipped because that's the majority of their funding. It comes from trade. They're a naval power in its own. So you can imagine how well equipped this navy is compared to Rome's, which historians obviously are debating about. And I would say that Rome's navy is probably better than what most historians will give it credit for, but still, Carthage's navy is the best in the world, or at least in the Mediterranean at this time.
And so Rome had to figure out exactly what to do about all this water.
Come on, men. We're not gonna let some pansy candy-ass water get in the way of our glorious victory against Carthage. Charge! Tell my kids I love them.
We're gonna need a bigger boat. What's a boat? I don't know. If the Romans wanted to win this war and obtain Sicily, there was only one thing for them to do. I guess we're just gonna have to go ahead and build ourselves a war fleet, aren't we? From scratch? From scratch. Well, we don't even know how. Never mind how to fight with one.
So this reminds me of in Game of Thrones when Lord Manderley is charged with building a fleet for the North, which they've never had to do before. So that's kind of interesting.
Don't worry, Hank. We're up to the challenge. Come on, guys. We're Romans, and Romans aren't afraid of anything. And so, the Romans worked long and hard trying to figure out how on earth you actually build the latest style of warship. In the end, they had a bit of luck on their side. A Carthaginian quinquereme ended up accidentally grounding on Italian soil. The Romans found it and copied the design. While the new fleet was being built, the Romans trained rowers on land. And would you believe it? The Romans put together a full fighting fleet of 120 warships in just 2 months. A staggering feat. Now, I know what you're thinking, but oversimplified. If the Romans can build a war fleet from scratch in 2 months, then why does it take you half a year to make a video? Well, my valued subscriber, I think you should...
So they're roasting him. He's roasting himself. And it wasn't half a year over, so let's be honest here. This has been like 10 months. My God. It was December, and today is August, so 9 months. And he's getting, it's kind of funny because we give him a lot of crap for not posting, but this is clearly an example of us giving him a ton of junk.
Shut up. What the heck? How on earth did the Romans look?
He just told us to shut up, basically. Oversimplified community. We need to lay off him sometimes. He's doing the best he can. And I'll post part 2 tomorrow when I'm not hammered.
Learn how to build a war fleet. This shouldn't be happening. From what I hear, they copied the design from us, sir. Well, how on earth did they get the blueprint, Carl? I don't know, sir. But I'll tell you what. If you're worried about people stealing your data, no, and you want to protect yourself from outside threats, don't you dare. Then you, my friend, if you mention NordVPN, I'll scream. Should use NordVPN.
Yep, okay, here we go.
Do you like corporations knowing everything about you and then selling your data to advertisers who convince you to buy things you don't need in an endless buy issues and building a war fleet? So have a navy, and it's
there we go.
time to
Navy
put it to
time.
the test. But how does one wage ancient naval warfare?
That's a good
Easy.
question.
All of the ships had giant bronze rams on the front, so all you had to do was outmaneuver the enemy and give him the
ram
jitters.
'em. Yep.
Easy as pie. And so the aggressive Romans set out for some good old-fashioned...
Keep in mind, the naval generals for the Carthaginians are not going to use their ships like the Romans will. They're not going to be as aggressive. Therefore, as the naval tactics of the day were just ram them. Therefore, it seems like a good strategy just to do that the whole time. And they're going to clearly get more ships because of that.
fashioned Jimmy giving. The consul, Gnaeus Cornelius Scipio, set out for the town of Lipara, believing the garrison there wanted to join the Romans. As he entered the harbor, however, he found himself trapped by a Carthaginian fleet, and in the following skirmish, he was completely outmatched. The Romans may have had a brand new fleet, but when it came to engaging in actual combat, their inexperience showed. There was just something better about the Carthaginian ships. The Carthaginian rowers had nicer abs. The entire Carthaginian Empire had been
They were built on slavery. They obviously can get great rowers.
built on expert seamanship. So, when it came to water, the Carthaginians were better, and the Romans were wetter. In their initial skirmish, the Romans were beaten so badly that the consul, Scipio, was given a nickname, Asina. And if you're wondering what that means, just drop the Ina.
Ass.
So what were the Romans to do? How could they possibly stand up to this Carthaginian superpower? Well, there's something you gotta understand about the Romans. Back when they found that Carthaginian ship and copied its design, that wasn't a one-off thing. Copying their enemies was as Roman as punishing murderers by sewing them into a leather pouch with a monkey, snake, and rooster, and then throwing them into a river, which is a thing they did. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, copying their enemies. Many of the most famous Roman inventions were actually borrowed. Aqueducts, chariot racing, their gods. Even in warfare, the Romans would get pierced by a Sabine javelin, and they'd be like, wow. They'd get hacked to bits by an Iberian sword, and they'd be like, wow. And they'd copy the designs for themselves. However, they wouldn't just copy it. They would advance it, finding ways to adapt it as perfectly as possible. And in the case of naval warfare, the Romans realized if they wanted to beat the Carthaginians at their own game, they would have to adapt. The Romans excelled at combat on land, not on water. But what if, they said, we could somehow turn a sea battle into a land battle? Sounds crazy, right? Well, they made a couple of tweaks to their warship, and look,
Voila.
here they come again. They must love getting their asses kicked. Sir? What's that toll thing sticking out of their ships?
I don't know what this is, but it's definitely going to work.
They really are idiots. Look at that thing. That'll make them blow over. I mean, look at...
Let's get their ass kicked.
Bob, get your camera out. Take a picture of it.
I wonder if the Carthaginians really were rude about this, though, if they were just like, what the hell is this? Why are they using this technology?
I mean, how stupid can you be? Let's just add a big wooden tower to our ship that'll weigh us down and blow us over in the wind. I mean, what does that thing even do?
Please.
The Romans had built a big swinging spiked gangway called the Corvus. So when the Carthaginian ships approached to ram them, The Romans would just slam them. The Carthaginians tried going around. No problem. The Corvus could swivel. Try going
Wow.
behind. The Romans would huddle to the coastline. It was foolproof. Those big, sexy Carthaginian rowing muscles could flex all they want, but they were no match for the Roman mind. So ladies, you see, what really matters is what's on the inside. Please go out with me. And with that, the Romans, who had only just recently began dabbling in the art of naval combat, thanks to their ingenious Corvus, had just managed to outclass the Mediterranean seafaring superpower. The Carthaginians were stunned, and the general in charge of the defeated Carthaginian fleet,
Crucified.
well, you better believe that's
Another
a crucifixion.
damn ad. Why are there so many fucking ads?
At truly grass-fed, our cows eat the best food there.
Ads for a 27-minute video. That should not be a thing.
Blockade coastal cities and supply their legions on land. Surely, the Romans were now free to unleash their aggression all over the island. Haha! Hey, Carthaginians, what are you gonna do now that we're free to rampage across the island? We're gonna go inside these walls and close this gate. Oh, come on, guys.
Siege warfare coming up.
Stop messing around. Come out so we can kill you. No. Oh, come on. No. Oh, no. To counter the new Roman supremacy, the Carthaginians decided to engage in a defensive war of attrition, forcing the Romans to engage in siege after lengthy siege. The war in Sicily became a long, hard, back-and-forth slug. One by one, cities slowly fell as the Romans gained ground. Occasionally, the Carthaginians countered and even pushed them back, only for the Romans to rebound again. And whenever a city did finally fall, the Romans could delight in slaughtering the entire population and selling any survivors into slavery,
Wow.
which was pretty standard procedure at the time.
Yeah, I guess so.
In general, the campaign on land was progressing much slower than the Romans had hoped, and quite frankly, they were getting sick of it. So in 256,
Keep in mind, consuls are only there for a year, so you would have to have consuls who agree with the war after it's former consuls who started it and are gone. Therefore, you're gonna have multiple years of hierarchies, multiple years of leaders supporting this war.
6 BC, they decided that something had to change. Hey everyone, my name's Marcus Attilius Regulus, and I'll be one of your consuls for this year.
Yep,
Look,
new
as I'm
consul.
sure you all know, Sicily's being a bit of a drag. Sure, I could go and spend my entire year as consul besieging one single city, but they'll never make a naked statue of me for that. So here's the new plan. I'm gonna skip Sicily entirely, take my army, and go right for the heart of Carthage itself. I'll slaughter the men, enslave all the women and children, and when I return, you'll all build 1,000 naked statues of me. Marcus, that women and children stuff, that seems pretty evil and barbaric. No, Jim, it's perfectly normal in the ancient world. Sometimes we even chop their pets in half. Okay, guys, looks like the Romans are coming straight for us this time. And what will they do when they get here? They'll kill us all. They'll massacre each and every last one of us. They may even chop our pets in half. That's barbaric! No, Rob, it's actually pretty normal for the time. We'd do the same to them. Who'll protect us? Funny you should ask, Mary. That's kind of why I called this meeting. Who will protect us? Protect our families, our homes, our children. You guys? Ha! Don't make me laugh. Why, you're just a bunch of stupid and weak farmers. Simple-minded buffoons. Cowards. Fools. Rob here thinks enslaving women and children is barbaric. You're a snowflake, Rob. Yes, you are. The fact is, if the Romans manage to land on African soil, we're all gonna die. A terrifying, hideous, unspeakably painful death. Is that the end of that
Oh my god. Yeah, so basically they're screwed. That's the nice way of putting it. They're screwed.
speech?
That's
Yes.
hilarious though.
The Carthaginians had to stop the Romans from ever landing in Africa because they believed that would be the end. So as the Romans were building an invasion fleet, the size of which the world had never seen before, the Carthaginians were preparing an even bigger one to stop them. And in 256 BC, as the Roman invasion fleet made its way south, the stage was set for a humongous battle that saw 680 warships, around 300,000 men, fighting to decide the course of the war. To this day, the Battle of Cape Agnomus remains possibly the largest naval battle in human history,
Wow.
all the way back in ancient times. So the next time your granddad tells you about the time he sank a Japanese aircraft carrier,
I would say most of those guys are dead. Most World War II veterans are dead.
kick him in the nuts. The Romans had a lot riding on this battle. They weren't just sending their warships, but transports as well, full of supplies and horses for their invasion of Africa. They therefore formed a protective wedge-like formation to punch through the long, thin Carthaginian line. The Carthaginian generals, however, desperate to prevent the Romans from reaching Africa, had a plan of their own. As the Roman fleet approached, the Carthaginian center feigned a retreat, luring the Romans in so their outstretched flanks could envelop them and get around the Roman corvus. A clever plan. But with such a huge battle and so many ships crowded together, the Carthaginians struggled to maneuver as hoped. And in the chaos, 3 separate battles emerged across the huge battle space. With the number of ships limiting their ability to maneuver, the Carthaginians became sitting ducks, and all the Romans had to do was start swinging. The Roman center
Jeez.
came out on top, and were then able to turn around and rescue their pinned down flanks.
That's
The Battle
wild.
of Cape Agnomus.
They're screwed. They're totally screwed, the Carthaginians. I know what happens at the end of the war, but still, that's insane that they probably could have. I know that naval power is their biggest feat, but they probably could have just had a normal invading force, and they could have probably stopped the Romans.
Was a Roman victory.
Okay, that's part one.
At the
I will give
doctor's
you.
office, you can...
I will give you part 2 tomorrow. As always, I'm sorry that I'm a little drunk doing this, but hopefully I added at least a little bit to it. But